All right, so right now it is 1:20 a.m. I literally have to be up in about 5.5 hours for a final that I have. It is finals week. Today is officially Wednesday, which means I have 2 more days of finals as I'm currently recording this, and then I am done with the first half of my junior year of college. It's all flying by, but to be honest, these last couple of nights, I've had a little bit of trouble sleeping. Number one, because I've just been studying and doing a lot of assignments, but number two, because a lot has been happening in the sports world. And if you are not up to date with the channel, or if you haven't seen some of my recent shorts, you probably have seen either way that Phillip Rivers signed with the Indianapolis Colts today on their practice squad. He has not played an official NFL game since 2021. And of course, there was a lot of talk about this, and I've been thinking about it all day, but I haven't had the time to, really sit down and record. And so now that I couldn't sleep, I just ended up grabbing my phone and recording this. So that's why, the video might not look quite as good as it normally does, or quite as framed up, because I'm literally just going off of the dome. But what a weird time, right? What a weird move. 4 games left, and the Indianapolis Colts decide to go out and grab Phillip Rivers. And to be honest, as weird as it may be, they didn't really have a choice in the matter. I mean, Daniel Jones has an Achilles tear at this point. Anthony Richardson is still on IR for, I believe, his eye injury that he had previously within the preseason. Riley Leonard is your starting quarterback right now, but he has a shoulder injury, I believe. And it's very unclear if he could be, a consistent starter for this team, especially with the deadly schedule that Indy has coming up with Seattle, San Francisco, Jacksonville, and then Houston. They needed reinforcements. They needed help. And, as much as people said that this season is completely over for them, it's not. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a massive uphill battle for Indy going forward, especially with the schedule that I just mentioned, but it is entirely possible for them to go out and make the playoffs still. I think realistically, they would only need to win probably 2 of the next 4 games that they have. Now, one of them would have to be against Houston, who is one of, if not the top and most exciting defense in the league right now, and has consistently been now over the last 2 or 3 weeks. One of them would have to be that, just to deny Houston entry from jumping them within the divisional standings for second place. And the other one, maybe it's Jacksonville. Maybe you play Jacksonville close and Trevor Lawrence has a little bit of a breakdown, as we've seen with him, here and there within close games, and he breaks down and you're able to win that one. Maybe it's against a San Francisco team who has kind of been forced to play an ugly brand of football this year, just simply based off of the amount of injuries they've had. And so you have a vulnerable defense in there in San Francisco, who, yes, there's a lot of guys that have stepped up, but they don't have their main big-time stars in there. They don't have Fred Warner. They don't have Nick Bosa. They downgraded at a lot of positions with losing Talanoa Hufanga and Dre Greenlaw in free agency. They traded away Charvarius Ward. So there's a lot of missing pieces to that San Francisco defense. Maybe you could pull something out there. And, as much as this is obscure, right, and this is not ideal, and obviously Phillip Rivers isn't going to be the difference maker in them realistically, getting them to a Super Bowl. Number one, what real option do they have then to compete? I'm hearing a lot of people saying they need to, really focus on next year, but think about it. If they lose the next 4 games, they're sitting at 8-9. What does that realistically do for them? They're going to have a pick anywhere from about 15 to 20, and they're not really going to be in a realistic position to get a draft pick that is going to be, franchise changing. Yes, it's still going to be a first round talent level player, but what are the odds that that guy is really going to come through and be a top level franchise player like the top 3, top 5, or even top 10 draft picks in this year's draft are slated to be? What are the odds of that? Not very high. So there's really no real position for them not to go out and compete. And second of all, it's not like they went out and got a random, 40-year-old that hasn't played in 4 years. This is a guy in Phillip Rivers that has played in Indy before, that has played under head coach Shane Steichen in his offense with some of his time with the San Diego Chargers, now known as the LA Chargers, when Shane Steichen was offensive coordinator for a little bit of time over there. So he knows the offense through in and throughout. He's been around the community and the culture for, I believe he was there for either a year or two. Like, this is a guy that it's not going to be an instant just step in and plug in, but it's going to be as close as you can get to that. And with so many of the dynamic weapons that you have on this Colts offense, it's not like we're asking Rivers to go onto the Jets and try to produce something with the lack of offensive output that they've had there this year in New York. You're going to an Indy team that has proven to have offensive success. You have Alec Pierce as a big-time deep threat. You have Michael Pittman Jr. as your number one physical type of wide receiver. You have a guy in Jonathan Taylor who, yes, as he has been on a downslope for the last 2 or 3 performances that he has had, has still had, a historic, MVP level type of season for a running back this year, and can still be super dynamic. You have a pretty solid offensive line. You traded for Sauce Gardner to hopefully get a solid cornerback duo with him and Charvarius Ward. So this is a Colts team that still has really, really solid talent. And there are still questions with other teams remaining within the AFC. Can the Texans, despite them having a little bit of an updraft for the past couple of weeks, can they stay offensively consistent to win their last final games? Can Jacksonville pull out in some really close contests, especially against my Denver Broncos, who they're slated to face in a couple of weeks? You have the LA Chargers, who Justin Herbert, he's dealing with a broken hand right now and hasn't, necessarily been the best, across the end of stretch of the end of season over the past couple of seasons that he's been within the league. You have, teams like the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Kansas City Chiefs, who are all fighting for playoff spots, but don't necessarily have the complete roster that you would look to compete. So the season isn't completely dead for Indy, and I don't think that they should just throw this away and not compete. What I do think is valid for people to ask is what they're going to do next season as far as the quarterback position goes, because Phillip Rivers is as solid as he could be for you this year, and especially, within that short to mid-pass game, he is not going to be obviously a long-term fit. Let's say he even stays next year, which is not even close to likely in my opinion. You still have a question. Do you sign Daniel Jones to a major extension? This is his one and only year. It was a 1-year signing with Indianapolis. Do you extend a guy who had a really, really solid start to the season, then started to plateau a little bit at the end, and now is going to be coming off of an Achilles injury? He's not even probably going to be starting for you at the beginning of next season. Do you keep Anthony Richardson around and give him significant playing time going into the final years of his rookie deal? Do you think that Riley Leonard is a guy that can begin giving you consistent amount of play to where you feel comfortable with starting him? Those are all the questions that the Colts are going to have to answer. So while this is a temporary fix, a temporary bandage on a wound that is, bleeding profusely right now, and it's going to help for the time being, they still need to make a big time move next season, whether that's drafting a quarterback and trading up to draft a quarterback, whether that's making a huge free agent signing, or whether that's locking one of these guys down, because they do have a really talented roster like we mentioned, and that's something that they can't let go to waste. You can't let a talented running back like Jonathan Taylor go to waste. You can't allow somebody as unlikely to break out as an Alec Pierce the way that he has. You can't allow that to go to waste. Michael Pittman has been solid for them for years. This is almost as complete of a roster as the Colts have had in a very, very long time. You have to be able to get your captain under center to be able to lead this ship, and maybe you have that on the current roster right now. That's the decision that they're realistically going to have to make. But overall, like I mentioned, I don't think that this move is necessarily terrible. If Phillip can just put together drives and elongate drives overall and not have the defense on the field for 80% of the game, they're going to be able to compete. Not saying that it's a guaranteed playoff make for them, not saying that they're even Super Bowl contenders within this, but at this point, at the point that you're at 8-5, still have a chance to make the playoffs. really tanking and losing your last 4 games doesn't do you any good. You need to put a temporary bandage, and Phillip Rivers can fill in for that immediately, especially if Riley Leonard isn't immediately ready to go, coming off of a shoulder injury into this following week. So if Indy can win 2 out of the next 4 games, they're most likely in. But again, that is still a really, really tough and uphill battle. So I just wanted to get this quick video out for you guys to tell you guys some of my thoughts and some of what I was thinking. But let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. What do you think of this move? Do you think that this is potentially something that teams could adopt, moving forward, bringing these older veterans out of retirement and trying them out for, the last couple of weeks of the season if they are struggling? Hey, there's plenty of potential guys from that 2000s era that I could think of. Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady got a couple of calls a couple of years ago when teams are struggling. There's so many of those guys that still continue to have the fire. It's all about if their body can perform. And we're about to see right now if Phillip Rivers' body can perform. So let me know about all of that down below, as well as subscribing to the channel, leaving a like, and sharing with your friends. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on all social medias, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those ads are going to be down below. We're on all of those social medias. You will get to see my latest reaction to breaking news from the NBA, the NFL, and combat sports. And you will never miss whenever the podcast decides to upload an episode. And without further ado, guys, that's all that I have for you guys today. I will see you guys on the next one. I hope that you guys have a great rest of your week. And peace.